Hello again, I'm Amanda and welcome to the channel. Now, if you've seen any of my videos before, you'll know that I'm really keen on using leftover things that we have to hand, so plant materials, food waste, to improve our soil, create good compost, and you know what, just cut down on the growing costs and grow in a much more sustainable way. Now, I can't do a video on this topic without showing you my compost bin, right? I think there's a law against that. So here is my oldest compost bin. Obviously, it would have been right up to the top here, and you can see the levels sunk down quite a long way. Absolutely delighted with that. So I should have lots of lovely compost for next spring. You can't really recognise a lot of the things that are in there anymore, which is a good sign because it means they're decomposing. But yeah, you can see things like the egg boxes. They're really great to use. I love to use them. Eggshells, another great resource. And yeah, so that's going to be fantastic for next year. And I can't wait to spread that on my garden. So first up, I'd like to talk about the humble tea bag. It's a subject that's very close to my heart because I do like to drink a lot of tea. And I usually have a handful of tea bags left at the end of each day. Well, not usually, always. What am I talking about? Now, there's a big controversy in the UK a few years back about the fact that manufacturers have been putting plastic in their tea bags. And clearly that's not a good thing. If you're consuming a lot of tea bags, you're probably going to be ingesting a lot of microplastics along the way. Anyway, those manufacturers then announced that they'd remove plastic from their tea bags. Fantastic, job done, or so you would think. But no, sadly not. There was an article I read recently on the Mail Online, which I'll try and find and put a link to in the description, which talked about the fact that a lot of these manufacturers are now using plant-based plastics in their tea bags, and that this allows them, through some kind of loophole, to claim that they're plastic free. Now, plant-based, natural, that sounds great, right? But there are actually quite a lot of toxic substances in nature, so do you trust that? I'll be honest, I don't. And when I looked into it a bit more, the advice online seemed to be that you shouldn't be putting even the plant-based plastic bags in your compost. This is very disappointing news for me. I'd recently switched to using a different brand, which is fully organic. The bags, as you can see, they're not bleached, so they've got a slight yellowy tinge to them. So as far as I was concerned, I was merrily composting them with no issues whatsoever. And now I'm thinking I probably can't put them on my compost heap. Of course, everyone has a different attitude towards these things, but I just wanted to highlight that because I wasn't aware that it was still an issue. And if I'm not aware, I'm sure other people aren't. And it's quite upsetting to think that I could have been adding microplastics to my soil that take years to break down. So yeah, it is what it is. Apparently there are still some brands that don't use any plastic, and I'm going to look into them, but I've got a feeling that they're going to be very expensive. So for now, I think my tea bags are going to be going in my food waste bin. Sorry. So that brings me on to another very common food item, citrus. Should you compost citrus fruits? Well, some people say you shouldn't because it makes the compost too acidic. I kind of feel like unless you're using a lot of citrus, you're probably okay. But there is a caveat on that, which I'll come to. In actual fact, the fact that it's so acidic is a superpower in a way if you've got any plants in your garden that prefer acidic soils. And I'm going to show you what I'm doing with my blueberries in a second. Now, the caveat around citrus. If you go into the supermarkets, you'll find that a lot of the citrus fruits have been treated with a coating to help preserve them. I think in the US it's called apeel. Over here it's just this really long scientific name, but you'll find it basically listed under the barcode usually saying it's been treated with, you know, this really long chemical name. Now, regardless of whether or not you think that's safe or not, I have my views on that. But regardless of that, if it's been put on the fruit to help preserve it, it doesn't really make sense to be putting that fruit in your compost or anywhere else for that matter, because the whole point is that you want that to break down and feed the soil. Certainly what I see in my local supermarket is that all of the lemons, for example, have been treated with this substance, with the exception of the organic lemons. So yeah, I think it's worth keeping an eye on. If you are interested in the whole topic of food and nutrition and reducing the amount of toxins that you consume, you really might want to check out my recent video that I did on the so-called dirty dozen, where I talk about the most pesticide-laden foods. And you know what? It's not all doom and gloom, because the top 3 can all be grown in your average garden. So please do let me know your thoughts on what you think it's okay to compost, what you shouldn't compost. I know it's a very controversial topic and everyone has their own ideas on this. So I'm down here with my blueberries, which I like to grow in pots because my soil isn't acidic. And blueberry plants really do need acidic soil in order to flourish. Now, I did do a video on that back in the early days of this channel, which I'll put a link to in the description, as you might want to check it out if you're interested in growing blueberries. So what am I doing here then with my blueberries? Well, I'm using the lemons to add back a little bit of acidity to the soil, which is something the blueberries really need to flourish. You don't have to just use lemons for this. You could also use other materials. Apparently coffee grounds work, pine needles and things like that. They're also good. So there are a number of options and I thought I'd give it a go. I don't know if it's going to work or not, but I noticed that my blueberries often don't seem very happy. And I think one of the problems I have is that during the course of the summer, I run out of natural rainwater. And so therefore I'm having to rely on tap water to water them. And at that point, the tap water is probably leaching the acidity out of the soil and causing them to not be very productive. So this is an experiment I'm trying. I saw that Ben from Grow Veg did an article on it and he suggested some of these options. He also suggested during the summer to use vinegar, a little bit of vinegar in your water, and that way to make it more acidic, and that would help the plants. So I'm going to try that, I think, next year. But yeah, I just wanted to show you this because I think it's a really great way of using the natural properties of citrus fruits, so their acidity, to actually benefit your garden rather than be concerned about it. So that's the end of a very quick update from me. I really did want to talk about the tea bag situation because tea is something that's very close to my heart. As I say, it isn't all negative. If you look behind me, you can see that even though we're in December, I've got a lot of things growing in my garden. And guess what? You can eat all of them. I pretty much only grow things that you can eat. So I think my next video is going to be a garden tour. Unbelievably, I think the last garden tour I did was back in August. And obviously what I've got growing now is very different to back then. If you've enjoyed watching this video, please do like, and you know what I'm going to say. Please consider subscribing because it does really help the channel, and it's really lovely for me to know that people are enjoying the content that I'm making. I'm stuck at 99 subscribers at the moment. I really want to hit 3 digits, so you know you want to. But until next time, thank you so much for watching and bye-bye.